Morning, Johnny. Good to see
Good.
you. How are you? Okay.
I'm very well, thank you, Chris. How are you?
Yeah, great. Thanks very much. Look, this is an exciting time for you. One of the reasons why, as you know, one of the reasons why I wanted to have a chat. You're a young entrepreneur setting up their own business and setting up an app that is probably incredibly relevant for this moment in time. Do you want to just explain a bit about it?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So, as you say, it's I've always been a big fan of technology, as you know, and also the food and beverage industry. And one thing that I did at the beginning of the year was decide to give up drink, and I started to see a real trend in the industry with non-alcoholic drinks coming on the market. Lots of fantastic choice, but one of the things I found is actually trying to discover that choice was a bit of a challenge. So I started to look and see, from my technology background, what could I do to help people like me, or people that don't drink for a number of reasons, whether that's religion, whether they're pregnant, whether they just want to cut back, whether actually they just want 1 or 2 days without alcohol. So I started to create an app which is launching at the beginning of December. And the whole idea of the app is to help consumers find non-alcoholic drinks. And that could be beers, wines, spirits. We're seeing big growth area in the spirits. And not only be able to discover them, but be able to set preferences, filter by things like taste. You may want to discover beers from further afield, so from different countries, and this is all in the no and low alcohol space, which is a sector that year on year is growing 30-40%.
I mean, it's fascinating, isn't it? Because the actual quality of the drink has changed beyond belief as well, hasn't it?
Amazing, absolutely amazing, and even in the last couple of years, and I've always been quite intrigued into the no and low space. For whatever reason, you may not always want to drink, and that may be because you're driving. And I would always, you go into a bar and they'd have one choice, and that choice was in a bottle, and to make it look like you're, or have a pint glass, you have 2 of those, and then you get presented a bill of £8, and you're like, and actually not always the best quality product, but the quality of drinks. And I credit to the likes of Brewdog and Infinite Session on the beer side. I mean, we sort of cover the wine and the spirit side, but credit to them for really being innovative in that market, and championing the bringing things like beer on tap. Obviously, hospitality being closed at the moment, but it is a big thing. We're coming into dry January, to allow people to have choice, have a beer on draft, or spirits, and it's great. Pre lockdown number 2, I went into my local pub, and there's sort of 3 or 4 different gin choices, and all no and low alcoholic. And you think, finally, actually, they're wanting to embrace this movement, really.
Yeah, that's really fascinating. And your own driver, have you never been a particularly big drinker, or do you just something you just don't want?
No, so I would say, so one of the big things for me, and the reason I decided to give up, and I've told this story, and you'll see it sort of on my website, was I would find when I drink, I would not have an off switch, and I think there's many people like that, and I just reflected on a few moments that had happened, and I just felt that actually, did I want to drink? But also I found, as well, for sort of mental health and anxiety, the next day you'd get up and you'd be feeling anxious because of the alcohol. And as well, I found that when I drink, or used to drink, I would go very much in my shell. And, I would say I'm quite a sort of out there personality. But as soon as I drank, that sort of, I became very guarded. And that for me was a real decision of going, do I need it? What is it adding to my lifestyle now? I'm not sat here going, everyone has to drink, stop drinking. That's absolutely not. But I think, taking the right decision, is it having the best, impact on your life? And for me, that was why I decided to do it.
Look, the reason why I ask is not to be personal, is because actually there's a whole trend of young people choosing to opt out, isn't there? I mean, this is becoming quite a common.
Yeah, it is, and I think my sister's at university. She's sort of 21, and it is a real, yes, of course there is that drinking culture, but people realise that now it's not about just drinking. People like the taste of beers and that kind of stuff. That's typically why they drink them, and I think people are realising that they can have that same great taste, but not have to have the alcohol. And you're absolutely right. You look at the trend of under 25 that aren't drinking, and it's massive. It's a real growing sector for the no and low alcohol space.
And the really interesting thing during lockdowns, I find people gone one of the two ways. Either they're drinking much more, or drinking hardly anything at all.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's that for me is it's a really interesting balance. I think first lockdown, something that has never happened before in our history, and people suddenly realize they're not getting that social interaction, and they're zooming much more, and they're drinking on Zoom, but actually suddenly, because you're not in the office, I think a lot of people's weeks became almost a weekend. They would drink on Zoom and then get up in the morning feeling a bit rough. And I think, you're right. I think people have either gone one way or the other. They've either drunk more because that's what they've wanted to do, and I think drink can often be used as a coping mechanism. The world is a bit of a funny place at the moment, or I think a bit like me, I went very much into exercise and wanting to become much more healthy in my lifestyle, and it would be really interesting to see. I've got friends who the first lockdown were on Zoom all the time and drinking and everything, but this time they said, actually, we're not doing Zooms, because I think they realized actually how much they were drinking.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. Well, there's certainly more awareness, people getting more health conscious. Yeah. There's a whole shift on that. In terms of your own aspirations, let's talk about two things. One, about you and the business. How hard has it been to set up the business? How hard has that been?
I think, as you know, I've been sort of a sales director for a couple of tech companies over the last sort of 6-7 years. And, you get heavily involved in a business. It's not until you do it yourself that you realize, how much there is to do. And, I sit here and I'm fortunate my brother's an accountant. So that's the finance side, heavily sorted. But, even to get together the branding, the branding took a lot of time to get right. I wanted it to be, one, reflect my personality, but two, become very appealing, but and so that took a lot of time. And then it's the development of the app, and both companies I've previously worked for have had products before and had a very good stable platform, and I've been starting from scratch. And you've got decisions that you have to make, and often quite quickly, and you've got a vision of how you want this app to work. And I've talked to you before, it's very much around data. I want to be able to do sort of industry reports, into sort of the favorited drinks and where market trends, and it's all those type of decisions you have to think now, to make sure that you're going to be able to get what you want. So it's definitely been a journey. It's something I've always wanted to do. I left school and then went to the Peter Jones Academy and set up a business there, nothing much, and then went straight into work at 17 full time. And for me, it was really interesting because I sort of, as you know, was out the business for a bit because of furlough. And for me, I've never really taken more than about 10 days out of a job since I started at 17. And having that time to think, no pressure, not thinking about anything, really allows you to sort of hit the reset button. And I know you're very passionate about sort of that reinvention. And I think that would, for me, was like, right, now is right.
I mean, the exciting thing for me as well is watching, without being patronising anyway, young talent set up a business again. Actually, I think we've got to encourage young people to go for it a bit more.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are you frightened at all? Are you concerned by what you do?
No, I think it's very interesting. You speak to a lot of people, and I think a lot of people go, you're young, give it a go, and do you know what? I'm very much, I didn't go to uni. I'm very hopeful. Obviously, this app will work and everything, but I look at it and go, if I've invested into an app, been on this journey, and it doesn't work, the amount that I've learned, actually, I didn't go to uni, but the cost of what I've done will give me miles more experience than anything. So I'm very much, of the mentality that give it a go. And what for me as well, as sort of left my job, and I feel very much the big push for me to actually go, I'm going to go for this, was the feedback from the brands, and the fact that they believed in it, and actually feedback from all kinds of people, not only people I know, but sports psychologists, people who have set up drinks brands focused on non-alcoholic, and having that feedback just gives you the drive to go, what have I got to lose? And especially in a year where things have been not the simplest or straightforward, and I'm very much like, let's give it a go.
So in terms of brands, you talk about that feedback you're getting. What kind of feedback are you getting? What do they say?
Yeah, so I as you know, been speaking with a lot of brands recently, and a lot of it is, there's nothing out there that gives that consumer real opportunity to discover drinks. We'll be using a lot of sort of machine learning to be able to recommend drinks based on other people's favorites, and for the brands, what they like is a platform that gives them the exposure, gives them the ability to shift to, obviously, what they're doing this year has been, for a lot of the brands, has been a massive shift from sort of on-trade business to suddenly having to go very much more into the retail space. You only need to look at Amazon, and the amount over the last 3-4 months, the amount of drinks that they're now listing is probably 10 times what they used to, because I think brands are having to adapt. And what they like is the ability that actually they've got a platform where they've got a captive audience. People are going to be signing up for this because they want to discover stuff.
Yeah, that's really interesting, isn't it? And your aspirations, what's your aspirations for the first year? What are you going to achieve?
Well, that's a good question. So, I've always had a real passion for being out, personally, and for other people that don't drink or want choice, to be able to see more choice on the market, and to be able to walk into a bar and there it is the choice available, and also a beer on draft, or more whiskies and spirits. For me on the app, to get users, get the feedback, I want a big part of the app is being able to not only obviously showcase the products for these brands, but be able to show consumers where they can get them. So whether that's retailers, but as well hospitality. So the idea of the app is it will show you where that product's sold. So which pubs, which bars, could be stadium, real variety. If I can engage with those organizations and get a good user base up, to be able to start really being able to help help that whole industry, and really be able to become a bit more of an expert as well within the no and low alcohol space. Because, you know, as you can imagine, I've tried a lot, and it's very interesting to be able to use, you know, my knowledge of the past 7 years working for, you know, similar sort of food and beverage tech companies, and for me, one of the things I would love to do, and, you know, I think it's probably a bit further away, but is start working with brands to look at food pairings as well. So, you know, really be able to showcase the fantastic choice that is available, and hopefully help, you know, as well, some of the smaller brands grow, and you know, work with the big operators.
So who's been a real influence on your career? Because you've come through, you set up at 17, came into work at 17. Who's been a real influence for you? What's helped you grow?
As in a person, or just?
Yeah, I think a lot about setting up as a business is about you having the confidence as a person to go for it, isn't it? That's actually a harder journey than, clearly it's a harder journey because there's not many 20-year-olds setting up businesses. What's given you that confidence?
I think it's hard to put, you know, sort of onto a specific person. You know, I have a very good mentors, you know, Mark Pitcher is, as you know, very, very supportive in helping me grow as a person. But I think it's seeing the likes of, you know, people my age that are in, you know, the Forbes 30 that are in, not that it's all about money at all, but in, you know, the rich list, that actually, you know, people that have given it a go, and often within the tech space. But, you know, the likes of, you know, Will Shu from Deliveroo, you know, to really just go for it within a space that actually 10 years ago, who would have thought that someone's going to deliver you food on a bike? And I think that's, for me, those type of people that actually see a vision, and yes, it may be actually they're starting early and it's a few years in the future, and I still think that with the app that you know, I'm creating, actually, yes, it is a big thing, and, you know, there's over 8 million people who are interested in exploring changing, you know, their drinking habits. That's still, you know, going to take time, and you know, obviously likes of Dry January help, but being able to sort of inspire those people, and it is people that, you know, real tech entrepreneurs, and I love tech and food, and that, for me, anyone that's done anything in that space is a real sort of hero of mine.
So let's fast forward 5 years. What do you hope to see?
Cool. Wow. So, I mean, I think in terms of the industry and where this is going, you know, you only need to look at a Brewdog with their non-alcoholic beer, but also non-alcoholic bar in London, you know, where they've got 20 odd draft non-alcoholic beers on tap. I think there's going to be a real shift. I think, actually, for me, I'd love the idea of going into a place, there's no pressure to drink. There's actually, do you know what? It's not even a topic. It's just, I'm going and I'm trying some fantastic products. And, you know, if I've discovered them through my app, even better. But for me, it's, you know, I see working with this space and seeing where it's going is just a real exciting journey.
And how have you changed? Obviously, during this period of time, you've obviously had to reset and do your own business. How else have you changed?
I think, as I say, started work at 17, worked for a bank because I was offered a job and it was a sort of a no-brainer, really. Then worked
the bank, actually.
No, I no. I mean, it was Metro Bank, and it was, you know, it was a bit quirky. But, you know, and I joined them for that because they were very revolutionary in what they were trying to do, and I think it fit well with sort of the entrepreneurial side. you know, obviously worked for Indicator and then 10 Kites. And, you know, I think there's loads of lessons that, you know, you learn along the way. And, you know, when I look at myself at, you know, when I was 21 and, you know, being in, you know, presenting to a board of, you know, big company and just almost being like a deer in headlights. And I think especially this year has allowed me to just go, do you know what? I've always wanted my own business. I've always wanted to be my own boss. I've always wanted to, you know, come up with something. And I think I put a lot of pressure on myself as well, you know, previously. And it was almost that frustration of, well, why can't I come up with that idea? Why is it, you know, why is it taking time? And for me, this is, you know, being able to just completely reset and actually find something that I'm passionate about. And I think, you know, the so many people say, you know, a day's work shouldn't feel like work. And, you know, I think that's what I've aspired to. And I think the journey that I've been on this year, you know, has very much, that's been the mentality of where I want to get to.
Really interesting. Now, we haven't actually named the product.
We haven't.
So go on, let's give you a plug for it.
Yeah, so it's Better Without. So betterwithout.app is the website. It will be launching on both the App Store on Apple and Google Play. We'll be doing a sort of soft launch in early December, ready for dry January. Obviously, dry January being a massive event sort of every year. It'll be really interesting to see this year, actually, with everything that's gone on. Will people go, actually, let's do it, it's a month? Or will they go, do you know what, it's been, you know, we're in 2021 and we started the year and we're still in lockdown? It'd be really interesting to see. So yeah, the app will be live, and obviously we'd be showing people over the next couple of weeks.
Oh, well, look, I wish you every luck. I've no doubt you'll be a success, Jonny.
Thank you very much.
I just think it's the right thing. I just think that people Definitely. Are changing their lifestyles completely, aren't they? So,
yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, hopefully if it goes well, you know, big passion of mine is, you know, being able to have people that are working alongside me. You know, I'm a big believer in supporting younger talent than me, and you know, helping them and you know, if they, you know, do come and work for me and there's, you know, a few years and they start to come up with their own ideas, I'm a big fan of embracing that.
Well, let's hope you have a great success.
Thank you
so much indeed for your time today.
Thank you very much, Chris.